Hello, everybody. Welcome. And if you give me a minute, I will get the meeting started. Oh, Jericho, was there something actually, you gotta help me out a little because I'm going between a couple of things. Was there anything on the agenda besides open the meeting prior? Uh-oh. Did I go out of the meeting?
Jericho, you're muted.
Oh, that's the problem. Okay, good. I thought I had gotten out of the meeting.
I had done such a great job of reading that too. The initial is established quorum, acceptance of agenda. There are no minutes to accept. Items are intro of new members, speaker from Health Impaired or speaker from Athenaeum, report from me, and then opening discussions on mission statement for next meeting.
Okay, I might need some help as we go along because I have a couple of things up right now that I kind of have to keep up. So I will start the process of starting the meeting, and then from there I might need a little bit of help because I might be moving around the screen a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who does not use full name or acts inappropriately. As a preliminary matter, this is Athlyn Sweeney, Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. This is where it's taking me a minute to get around. Veronica.
Here.
Tara.
Here. Sorry, I was late.
No worries. Good to
Running
see
from
you.
the airport. I apologize.
Sue.
Here.
And Jericho, I'm just checking. Amanda, I'm getting you.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right. Go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, here.
And Jericho, for Kelly, he's ready to be called. Okay, good. Kelly.
Here.
Wonderful. And for staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jericho.
In attendance?
And anticipated speakers on the agenda, please
Sorry,
respond.
you have to do Tamika as well.
Tamika, sorry. Like I said, this is going to be a process of being new. Tamika, new staff person.
Here.
Good to see you. And for our guests, we have, wait, we're supposed to have two people. Oh, Sammy.
Here.
And I apologize that I don't know JKE.
It's Julia Keogh. Hi.
Julia.
Nice to see you all.
Welcome. I'm so glad I said this was going to be glitchy in the beginning.
Well, I still haven't figured out how to change my name on this thing, so that's embarrassing right there.
No, not at all. Not at all. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. And if you give me just a minute, I am going to.
There's no Y in the name though. That's okay.
An act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, which among other things extends the expiration of the provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2023. I'm sorry, guys, that has got to start over. On July 16th, 2022, Governor Baker signed into law an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, which among other things extends the expiration of the provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2023. Specifically, this extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. That does not make any new changes to open meeting law other than extending the expiration of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings. Okay, let's see if I can just make sure to get all of this in here. Meeting materials. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the chair, note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some of the ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak, please state their names and be acknowledged through the through the chair. Finally, each vote is taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay. Now we can move to the next agenda item.
Next item is committee acceptance of agenda, which will need a vote.
I make that motion.
I second.
Thank you. And Veronica,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
Thank you. That is voted in. And I'm going to try to pull up the agenda now that we've gotten through all of that. But what is the next agenda item, Chair?
Introduction of new members.
Okay, so we are actually missing one new member, and that is Sarah Wright. Some of you may have met her because she joined us as a community member just to kind of be here for a meeting historically. She is working at the hospital. Amanda, you want to say a little bit about her? Because I know you guys know each other pretty well.
Yeah, she's the director of social work at the hospital. And, you know, given that Fairwinds is during crisis, we work very closely together. And I know that she has another staff member that's working with her, and they see some clients in the emergency room and then some on the med-surg floor. And she's a great addition to the hospital and the community.
And I'm glad she decided to join.
Yeah.
And Kelly Steffen, you have also visited us in the past. It has been a while, I think like edging up on maybe a year ago, if not a little bit more. So we're really happy to see you. Would you like to unmute and just say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I hadn't prepared anything, but I know a few of you pretty well. I worked at the food pantry for several years and now work with a consulting company that some of you might be familiar with called Process First. And we focus on just providing kind of tools and resources where there's gaps in communicating between social service entities, kind of allowing for information to transfer between entities more safely so that clients don't get the runaround and have to go to multiple places and kind of use their valuable time to navigate our social service landscape. And then also trying to look at Process First, we're trying to look at the food system at a really holistic level and figure out where there's gaps in the social service landscape and food system landscape, and try to kind of make our local economy more robust while getting more healthy food on the plates of our neighbors. That's what I do. And now I'm here too.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
The next person who I thought we might see today, but she was obviously not able to make it, is Claudia Valle.
And some of you may have remembered she was on the committee prior, and then was out for a little while. Jericho, about how long? About maybe 9 months to a year?
Yeah, I believe she had her seat ran out then, or with the shuffle back up to 9 members. I think she had a gap that she had to do, and then we had another slot open back up again, and she reapplied for that.
Great. So we will welcome her back when she makes it to the next meeting. So we have 3 new members, and we're very excited about that.
Then the final new member is Tamika, who is Ann Medina's successor. Tamika, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Tamika Gary. I just started as office manager. I've been working with the town for almost going 9 months. I've been with the Health and Human Services for a month now.
Thank you for that, Jericho. I had in my head seated members, not staff. So I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Okay, well, welcome, Tamika.
You.
And Jericho, if you can just help me with the agenda items instead of me getting distracted looking for it, it's just as easy to have you.
No, I didn't want to talk any more than I already do, if that was a problem. Next item is the speaker from Health Imperatives or the speaker from the Athenaeum.
So,
Thank you. Whoever wants to go first.
Julia, why don't you go first?
Okay, hi, I'm Julia Keogh from Health Imperatives. Thank you all. Hi, Tamika. It's so nice to see you all, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate your support and the opportunity to talk today. I think I've spoken to some of you before, and those who haven't, I just have to start by saying my relationship with the town started about almost 11 years ago, 10 plus years ago. And in that time period, we have really helped, I think you have helped us transform the way we serve the community by allowing us to hire more, on island staff rather than relying on sending people over from the Cape. And that has allowed us to drastically increase the number of people we serve, and equally important, work more collaboratively on a day-to-day level with other providers to really creatively meet the needs of islanders, which over those 10 years, the population, of course, has changed, and we've been able to be flexible in our responses. So I just have to thank you. Every single time I talk to another town, I use Nantucket as an example, because it really is the single town in all of the 65 towns we work in that has such a commitment to collaborating with other nonprofits. It's really unprecedented. So thank you all. So we have, I think, done a lot of work together to make sure that we're meeting the needs of a growing population, largely of people for whom English is not their second language, not their first language, which is more than half. About 60% of the families we serve through our sexual and reproductive health clinic, where we provide ongoing pregnancy testing, options counseling, now medication abortion services, also cancer screenings, STI testing and treatment, HIV prevention, and gender affirming hormone therapy, and naloxone distribution and overdose education, harm reduction services, all of that, as well as our WIC program, where we provide healthy food education around nutrition for pregnant women and families with children up to the age of 5. And also our young parent program for people with children under 3 who are first-time parents. And that's the one program where we still are relying on island staff because the census has been very low in most of the years, although like 1 or 2 families at a time. Right now, we are serving already 3 families and have been referred to others. So we're considering hiring a part-time person on Nantucket so that we can see if we can really identify even more families to serve. So not only have we been able to work to meet more needs of people and respond really well and quickly at the town and the community foundation and other community members and stakeholders lead during COVID, but we've been able to really respond to other requests for assistance in other parts of the state based on our experience in Nantucket. And I want to actually bring that back to Nantucket eventually. So I've been talking for quite some time about how I'm hopeful that this model that we have on Nantucket, which has allowed us for the first time anywhere, and I haven't seen this in any part of the state with other programs, augment the staffing of a government program. Nobody else usually wants to pay money to hire staff to run a government program. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound like a great idea for municipalities or private companies or individuals to do. However, because of the way these government programs are funded, they only take into account the actual number of people. So if you have a relatively small number and you're further isolated by, you're an island, then there's often not enough money to even hire one full-time person. And that's what we saw time and time again with all of our programs. And it's the chicken and the egg problem where you're never going to have enough people on these programs, even though you have enough need on the island, if you don't have enough staff to do the outreach and all of that. So that's what we've demonstrated. And the last time I spoke with some of you, I was talking about how the Nantucket model has led to additional government funds in other areas that is going to lead to systems change that hopefully will lead to more money back into Nantucket. And that's convoluted. It should have been just Nantucket, but that's not usually how it works, unfortunately. So during COVID, the Cape got a lot of money for food insecurity, and we were able to use that money to hire individuals from different immigrant communities to work with people in the community who may be eligible for WIC, and also help them use their benefits, because we were finding that most people on WIC, especially people for whom English isn't their first language, were using less than half of their benefits, because it's really hard to figure out like which products are eligible, and then it's hard to navigate the store with a child. So it was an extremely successful program, but we also were able to add extra food benefits with that money, which I think is really important somewhere like Nantucket, where the benefits don't come close to meeting the basic needs of a family. And that's for people who have WIC. I'm also very concerned about people who are still in fact poor, even if they're over income for government programs on Nantucket, because the cost of living is so high that it doesn't matter if they're 2 or 3 times over the poverty level if they still can't afford to pay for their rent and food and healthcare. So we're advocating for changes to the federal program for that, but also to the state for that. So after that experience with the Cape, the United States Department of Agriculture came out with a lot of money to test different models in other parts of the country that hadn't been addressed before. And the idea was to build it on best practices that had already happened, try a new best practice, and then use that experience to change the rules for the WIC program nationally. So we applied for a program that took the best of the Nantucket model and the Cape model and made it a new model in Martha's Vineyard. So what that meant was, like the Nantucket model, we hired on-island staff. Then, like the Cape model, we added additional benefits. And then to improve the model, we partnered with a local organization called the Island Grown Initiative, which is they have farms, you know, they grow their own food, but they do a lot more than that. And they prepare food and they do cooking classes. They're in the schools. They're also, they go all over. They have a mobile van, a mobile farmers market. So they allowed us, we did a sub grant with them, and they're allowing us to go along with them. So we're reaching populations that we can't reach when we come over twice a month from Falmouth. So we're going into like Aquinnah and all the different towns. As you know, it's even more complicated on Martha's Vineyard given the size and the number of towns. So it's really, I think, you know, taken a long time, but it gets back to that original point that this program doesn't work for populations that have physical and other barriers to accessing healthy food. And especially as the wealth gap is growing, it's getting worse. So that's just one example of how You're Leading the Way is actually going to have an impact on the national program. And we'll continue to advocate for new funds. I'm also really hopeful that now with the immigrant crisis, with the hotels and motels, we've been involved for a year now in Plymouth, Kingston, and now the Cape in providing WIC services for homeless migrant families. And we're working with the state to figure out a way to coordinate better. And that information is also, we're making the same points that we make when we're talking about the model that we just discussed, about how there's got to be a better way of addressing the transportation barriers, the benefit levels, and just the multiple sort of barriers that people have to getting their basic needs met. And that instead what we end up doing is spending ridiculous amounts in emergency responses when just slight increases in different types of assistance or flexibility, like you've demonstrated in the way you allocate funds, would make an enormous difference. So we're hoping that this latest initiative we piloted on the Cape for immigrant services, where we hired immigrants from different communities to do, just like with the WIC program, some case management and to help them reach out to people who otherwise may not access our services because they were concerned about how it would affect their immigration status. That mechanism of hiring people from the communities that we're trying to serve is a really effective model. And now, given what's happening with the hotels, that we're recommending that they do that. And I think that's a great place in Nantucket. It would be a way for people to get jobs and the money to come into the community, and also a way to sort of mobilize people to help others. So we'll continue to talk about creative ways to, you know, if we just were able to add a couple staff people, we could do that and coordinate that on island. I'm never good at ending
Julia,
topics.
that was no, that's good. It was a great amount of information. And you guys are doing like tons of work. So now I want to just see if anybody has any questions.
Sure.
Veronica?
Well, Julia, I just want to thank you for coming today. It is amazing that going back, I guess you said it's 11 years, and the growth in health imperatives on island over those years, but also exciting because what I hear you saying is something that has started in Nantucket can potentially become a model for the rest of the country. It's always the other way around, that, you know, we're this little tiny place floating out in the ocean. And here, kudos to yourself in your leadership and in Health Imperatives, and being a leader and making change happen elsewhere also. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, because it's really the town that made this happen. So thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions for Julia?
I actually would like to add one tiny thing. The town funds she's speaking of are the contract review committee funds, which are a subgroup of this one, which I believe in the last 5 or 6 years, and Julia, go ahead and correct me on this if I'm incorrect, you guys have asked for and received about a 3-fold increase in spending, and we have been very happy with every penny we have spent with you.
Thank you.
About half of my service provision emails end up bouncing past or near something that Health Imperatives done, and they've done a tremendous job all over the place. So I just wanted to pass that along as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank
And
you
while-
all.
Thank you, Julia. And while we're talking about the CRC, I just kind of want to toot your horn. Veronica, you are doing amazing work and like seriously pulling your weight there. So you've committed so much time, and not only that, but you've come to us and given us the updates on everything that's been happening. And we so appreciate that.
As is Sue Minthinen.
And
So-
Sue has started, yes. And Sue, you and I have not had a chance to talk about your time on the CRC. Veronica and I get a lot of time together, so I'm hearing about that. But thank you for your commitment to the CRC. You guys got re-signed in, I think, the last time we were on. So maybe Sue can do our next update. Not today. I'm not throwing you out there today, but maybe next time she can give the CRC update.
I will do a tiny update on that in my remarks.
Great. And if we're ready to welcome, do you go by Sammy? That's what you have on your.
Thank you, Julia.
What is
Sammy,
it?
Samantha.
Sammy, Samantha, either one from the Nantucket Athenaeum. Hi, welcome.
Julia.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? My name's Samantha Aguirre. I'm head of adult programs here at the Nantucket Athenaeum. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we offer a number of services here at the Athenaeum. I wasn't sure if we wanted to cover just kind of what adult programs that covers, or just sort of the Athenaeum in general. There's a number of programs sort of outside of my particular adult program jurisdiction that we offer, like we have great ELL programs that are run here. We have a lot of programs that we offer to help people out with technology. In the past, we've run continuing classes to help people who might not be familiar with, you know, phones, computers, tech setup. We have, I mean, I feel a little odd explaining like what a library has to offer. I mean, I'm sure you guys know the bare bones, or rather basics, but for programming, I help coordinate events that are free and accessible to the community. We try and make sure we have a number of events that people can go to and don't feel that they have to spend an arm and a leg to go see. We have a number of concerts. We have a number of really cool lectures. We bring in authors to come talk. We have, during the shoulder seasons, we try to have some really fun reoccurring events. We have like open mics on Tuesdays. We have like tabletop game nights on Wednesdays. We have a knitters group that's going to be starting again very soon. It's really important to us that there's a space people feel that they can come and just be and exist, and it's a really cool way to kind of start conversations with people. We have an incredible teen program that's run by our teen librarian. That's a really fun, safe space for kids to come and play games, do trivia nights, movie nights. We have a fantastic children's program that offers just so many things for kids to do, other than, just TV. And we have a great puppet program. Were there specific, I know, I feel like I could be all day just kind of listing the stuff we have going on.
I don't think it
You know-
was specific, Samantha. I think it was just giving you the opportunity to say all I forget who was talking about it, but I think it was Suzanne, who was talking about it and telling us that she was so taken aback by everything that Athenaeum was doing that we wanted to have you on as a guest just to highlight all the kinds of programs you guys are running.
Yeah, it's really fun. I think it's more than people would expect. We have a lot of digital library offerings. Like if you're interested in learning another language, we have a deal with a program called Mango, where if you have a library card, all you have to do is like log that in and you can get Mango for free. We have a pretty extensive YouTube library of our previous lectures, and we have a podcast. We have a Linda Learning. So if you're trying to learn a software, just need a library card. We had a seed exchange going on for a while, which was really fun. It's just we offer so much stuff. It's just kind of fun to just come inside the library and even see. It could be something you just don't even expect that we offer.
Can I ask a
And-
question?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, through the library, is there anything that a parent who has a child who struggles in reading can get any kind of free access to? I know you have books on tape, but more like an audio program. Is there anything like that?
Not
Like-
books on tape? Like, what do you mean audio?
Not like coming in and getting a book on tape that you'd leave with, but anything where you have programs to help kids get access through kind of like Audible or Learning Ally or any of those
Accessibility.
programs.
Like a verbal accessibility type things.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. That I'd have to ask the folks over at Wheezy Library. I
Yeah.
know that we have a number of things like Hoopla and Libby that have tons of, I know you said you're not thinking of audiobooks, but there are audio sort of things like that. It's not Audible, but it's kind of similar. I think there might be some of those might offer things where you can kind of read along and it might sort of say it out loud.
Great. I'm just thinking about parents who might have kids who have issues who like I'm thinking about this because my own child has dyslexia and we have access to being able to get Audible or those kinds of programs, but some people don't. So I didn't know if that was something that they could come to the library and get access to any kind of audio books that weren't necessarily something they'd have to check out.
I'll tell you, sorry to interrupt, but I'll tell you that we do have access to the Perkins School for the Blind with tapes for people to listen, and anybody can use those through, but again, that's set up through, but some of it is set up through the Wheezy Library is a little separate from the Athenaeum. And for anybody who doesn't know, I also work part-time at the library. But so the person who's doing the tapes now, and that I think is Annie Kamara, and she would be somebody to get a hold of. You know, I was hoping that maybe Sammy would talk a little more about some of the new programs starting this fall for the nights, and how every night she's got all these different programs lined up.
Gotcha. So I will transfer that over to you in just a moment. I just want to say I do have to go pick up a child, and Veronica was well aware she was going to take over for me at this juncture. So I just wanted to thank Julia and Sammy for being here today and presenting all the wonderful things you guys have going on.
Sure, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you next month.
See you next month.
Sammy, can you just give a quick rundown of some of the new programs for the fall in the evening? Because one of the things I'm going back to when we spoke about having the Athenaeum join us, Suzanne was telling us back either in May or June, we were having lots of discussion about isolation of people on the island, whether it's the perceived isolation and the real isolation, whether it's in January or whether it's our workers that need to feel belonging. And Suzanne had mentioned a couple of programs, and we said, well, we need to get the library here. So
Yeah.
can you add some to that?
Sure. Yeah, so the shoulder seasons, we're doing a lot of fun stuff. Suzanne is actually she's going to be teaching tarot and astrology 2 nights a week. We're going to be doing, like I said, we have open mic on Tuesday evenings, and anyone's welcome to come, any talent level. It's so fun. Wednesdays we kind of have a stack of events. We have the knitting, the tabletop games. We have the what am I forgetting? Oh, then astronomy's on the other one. We've been doing a writers group that's been meeting online virtually. We've been trying to incorporate more kind of hybrid events, because we know, the Athenaeum doesn't have parking and some people have some mobility issues. So we've been trying to utilize some hybrid technology a bit more, whether it be via Zoom or we have a hybrid camera up in the Great Hall that we can utilize to kind of live stream some of our events. We have, I'm trying to think off the top of my head what kind of
Language,
we have going.
language cafe.
The language cafe, that's right. I haven't started that one up, but last spring we had language cafe, where if you were kind of trying to learn a language on your own, you could come in and try and practice as much of that language with other learners as well. That was a lot of fun. Let's see. The calendar is giving me a little issue. I was trying to bring that up so I could show. Oh, Sean runs our LGBTQ plus night, which is super great. So any individuals who fall into that category are welcome to come and meet up. It typically happens on Friday evenings, but I think it's maybe like every other week let's see, I know in October we've got some fun stuff coming up. We have bat talks and kind of Halloween themed activities for the people to come. Yeah, unfortunately our website is having a cranky moment, so it's not letting me access the calendar at the moment.
If I can just throw something in also. One of the things we've discussed in past meetings is, our year-round island community is growing, and it is growing in its diversity and in its numbers. And, the Athenaeum is a free service that's open to all. And are things that you're doing to potentially welcome some of our newer island and non-English language residents, etc., into this wonderful resource?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in addition to things like the language cafe, where, yes, the idea was if you're trying to learn a language, you can go practice, but a lot of people who are native speakers ended up coming to that just to try and help out and feel involved. And as I mentioned, we have an absolutely fabulous ELL program that meets a couple of times every week, and a really, really cool bunch of people come to that. And we have some books that are available in different languages. We usually try to get, when we do our One Book, One Island event, we usually try to make sure we have copies in, at least Spanish. And if there's requests specifically for another language, we do our best to get our hands on some copies.
And another thing I'll mention is that we have a lot of the Spanish speaking people have been coming in and getting library cards, and also using the facilities upstairs in the reference library to take their driver's test. And we have a study space that they can reserve and get online with the camera and take their test. And a lot of people, it seems like word of mouth, it's getting a lot of use, So that's just another instance. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're
jump in
good.
there, but-
It's also kind of where the Work One visa places come to get that sorted, and we help them out with that.
I feel like the
sorry.
radio ads have been super helpful, I'll be honest. Yeah.
Oh, good. We're going to be doing another one tomorrow for our Manhattan Short Film Festival at the end of this month.
Jericho?
I sort of wanted to mention that I have done some work with the, surprisingly enough, the tech guys over at the Athenaeum. They were inquiring on getting some education and cross-branding between their senior focused, like sort of tech support, and then the tech clinic I do once a month down there. And then we're going to try and sort of introduce the two different populations to each other and try and cross-brand some events. They also were very, very, very kind in offering a potential permanent town portal, like terminal there, that would be dedicated to having all of our human services, the network of care / Act Cares terminal that they were going to put up there for us. And I am hoping to get more human services into the library if it's amenable to them, because it is like the level of community trust that's associated with the Athenaeum is, it's very high, and it's been kind of consistently expanding into spaces that were, more like service provision over the years. Elsewhere in the nation, public libraries are core parts of major service delivery. They're centers of culture, they're centers of organization. And it is really fascinating to me as a kid who grew up next to the Athenaeum. I used to just go there after school for hours a day. Seeing that it's sort of being regularly used by other people is really nice.
Good. Well, thank you. Any other questions for Sammy? Well, thank you very much for giving us a little bit of an education about all the things happening at the Athenaeum, and keep it coming, particularly personally in January when it gets kind of lonely on the island. It's nice to be able to come and hear music and lectures or whatever. So thank you for supporting the year-round community, as well as our visitors and our summer people.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
And if anyone has further questions for Sammy, you can go ahead and send them my way if they crop up, or actually straight to Suzanne, who will see her on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Jericho, you're on next.
Thank you very much for coming, Sammy.
Thank you, Sammy.
All right, so I will keep my comments relatively brief, as we have about 4 minutes of allotted time, and we'll probably be switching the last agenda item to like kind of to think about ahead of next time, if I remember how Adeline phrased it when we're talking about the agenda. My first and sadly still most important update is that we have 3 clinic dates planned for COVID vaccines. September, November, and December are currently, no, sorry, September, October, November, because I know the months, are currently booked. And we will be adding a couple of dates as we see what the numbers are from those clinics. The sign,
Is it the, I'm assuming it's the most recent,
as of the 20,
newly approved, okay,
as
great.
of the 23rd, the first clinic is on the 23rd, and everything from now on, the MIS is instructing us to dispose of the pre-version ones. Like basically, if you get a shot at any place from now on, it is going to be the Omicron targeted variant. This would be the third major reformulation since we started after the bivalent. Locally,
I'm sorry, people to sign up, is it through the town website?
the town website and the color one. The current address for that site is nantucket-ma.gov/COVID. It used to be vaccine, but it is now /COVID. We'll be advertising that pretty regularly. So there's 3 clinic dates. Those are we're going to see if we can sign up for more, but as of now, those are the only 3 that we have. Current guidance suggests that anyone who does not have a primary series, either their first 2 or a bivalent, should get a updated dose as soon as they can, which would be the 23rd. And then for people who have had a dose within the last 5 months, and that dose being bivalent, I would wait until October, just so that your waning immunity gets you through the holiday season. Locally, wastewater samples not terribly high. There's probably another wave coming. We're seeing numbers rising in other places in the state, and there is a sub lineage of Omicron that is probably driving this wave. Expect it to be medium to bad, but it is going to be a rough respiratory winter this year. Flu is bad, RSV is bad, and COVID is still kicking around. In less depressing news, the town's response to a recent behavioral health crises is going to be rearing its head. We're in partnership with Amanda, actually, getting some QPR classes together. There'll be a presentation for the Board of Health next week with the outlines of that plan.
What's QPR? What is it?
I'm getting to that. I do have sentences, sorry. QPR is question, persuade, and refer. Question, persuade, and refer is a CPR acronym designed to kind of get people to know what is called gatekeeping training. Amanda is vastly more familiar with it than I, so I will pass it over to her for another 30 seconds.
It's a wonderful training to train those in the community about the signs and the warning signs around if someone is suicidal, and then what the questions to ask, and more importantly, how to get help. And I think the key thing is that if you're concerned about somebody, you need to ask the question, are you thinking of killing yourself? People worry that you're putting the idea in their head. That idea is already in their head, and it's a relief, and people answer the question and say yes. And then the next step is, where to get help. And like crisis is available 24/7. So it's an amazing training. It's very powerful. There's a gentleman that he survived jumping off the San Francisco Bridge in a suicide attempt, and he shares his story, and it's pretty, powerful. So.
What are the dates of the training, or is it a set schedule, or?
The first 2 trainings, as we kick the tires on the kind of administrative side of this, are going to be in September. The first training will be at our house, and it's going to be targeted at the youth there. Then we're going to be doing an in-house QPR training on the 27th of this month. As soon as we see what the numbers for that are, we're planning on going wide. These trainings are not open to the public just yet. October on, the idea is to start with people who are making regular contact with people who might be in behavioral health crises. So we're going to be offering trainings to clergymen, to people who are in any of the support industries, and then for sort of other faith-based communities, if there's anyone willing to do it. And then we're going to be trying to spin it out into an ongoing series of ongoing regular monthly events that will be open to everybody, so that there's sort of both a training and educational element, and then we're connecting people to a more bulked out resource network so that when they do recognize someone in crisis, there's a knowledge that other people have these trainings and that there are other people around there, because only small, like, gatekeeping training has an enormous amount of impact. And I've got a bunch of literature to back this up, that it directly helps individuals who are in crisis, but it shows significant population level impacts, decreasing incidence rates when it's widely deployed and widely advertised in a community. So it's actually the only population level intervention that I've been able to find that works as a prevention method and as a early intervention method.
So do I understand you saying that potentially by the end of the year, it would be opened up to general public outside of just professionals and clergy, et cetera, et cetera?
I can't give you a date for that, Amanda.
Oh, no, go ahead. I wanted to say something after.
I can't give you an exact date on that, but my plan is to do this first one, take some lessons learned from that, and then snowball it into there being at least one open to the public QPR training a month, if possible. We'll see if we can support that. And then I'm going to be hopefully dragging in some additional resources to build out like a behavioral health awareness core, or a group of people who are identifying, tying it with like a sort of a public campaign where people who have gone through this training have a clip or have something else on that they wear that identifies them as someone who both has gone through this training and then also is familiar with where to send people who do go into crisis, because the gatekeeping training is only 1/2 to 1/3 of the equation, and then directing people to services is a big part of the rest of it.
And then can I say one thing? Sorry. So September is Suicide Awareness Month, and Fairwinds is hosting a ribbon ceremony next Saturday at 9 o'clock at the Creek Preserve to honor those that we have lost to suicide on the island, but also in anyone's personal experience. So I'm hoping that people will come and honor those that we lost this past year and support the family and friends and just, pay tribute to people that have lost loved ones to suicide overall.
And then also together with Amanda, we're working on some panel events for the general community to kind of raise awareness and discuss the topic in a way that's going to make for healthier outcomes for everybody on the island.
Yep, and that will be in October. And then we also have an organization, Sharing Kindness, that is working with Fairwinds and coming over and doing a peer survivor support group once a month. They had their first meeting in September, and a fair amount of people showed up, which is amazing. And we have more joining this month. So it's a monthly meeting. It's led by Sharing Kindness. They're from off island. And I think it's been really helpful to know that people are feeling comfortable talking to people that aren't living on the island. So that's another resource we've offered in light of everything that happened in June in particular.
And then the final update for me, I promise I will be quiet afterwards, is that we have the Youth Behavioral Health Grant and the Contract Review Committee. The Youth Behavioral Health Grant has been released. It is out in the public. The due date for it is the 20th. We will be seeing what the results are, how many we got, and what the proposals are. On the 21st, I'll be sending it out to hopefully 21st, I'll be sending it out to the board members, and then I assume there'll be an update on the next CHS afterwards. And then Contract Review Committee will begin, we're hoping October, the late October, to get the RFPs out, but I'd like to have a process discussion or two first, just to tighten things up.
Thank you. Thank you. Last thing on our agenda, and actually we probably are going to just set this out to start thinking about it. Knowing that, well, number one, Athlon needed to run off, and also a number of people I think are somewhat anxious to get home because we have a pending storm and if people have to do any storm preparedness. So we don't want to go much beyond an hour, and we're now hitting the hour. But the last thing on our agenda is to review and discuss the scope and mission of our organization. And what Athlon and I and Jericho have had discussion on this, we have a wonderful group and a growing group of people interested in volunteering their time to focused around human services on the island. And we really would like to make sure that we're taking advantage of the talent and the time that people are donating. And we said, if we start by looking at our mission and what can we do? Because I've felt that we've got a wonderful talent bank here, and we need to be doing more. And so, Jericho, I'm going to ask if we can put together, you know, everyone can go to the website, certainly the town website, and our mission statement is there. I'd like to lead our next month's meeting with this conversation. So if we can let that percolate, and certainly any comments from anyone at this point, but that's where this is, why this is on today's agenda. So if I can open it up for some discussion, Tara?
So I'm wondering if we should potentially do a working group that's not a recorded working group, you know, so that we can really kind of brainstorm and have real discussion without, you know, the concern of like, you know, oh, we went this way, that way, and do it as a working group and not an official meeting.
That's a workshop or a retreat.
Yeah, something to that effect, so that we can really like kind of sit down and kind of get into it without.
Jericho, the parameters for doing something like that?
So I'll have to check with our compliance officer for the start for if for example, if you can deputize a smaller group of people to without violating open meeting laws, but two individuals together do not constitute deliberations as per open meeting law. So we could conceivably split up 2-3 person groups and then have them share the information with us when we do that. I would suggest just personally that we do have a meeting first to have sort of a, you know, an idea of what people want to do. I do think that mission statement up is really a good idea for us to do. And I think that another thing that might help us is to identify a problem or two that we want to address. Much like in the past, we discussed the court reporting issue. There was an issue of sort of bullying or other related issues in the school that we discussed. The remit of this organization is primarily to distribute information and then collect information from the community to raise awareness and direct resources towards things. In the past, that has included things like the support for isolation and quarantine during COVID. You know, there's a ton of different things that we can do. And then, you know, we can then we can then raise these issues and bring them to the select board as a body to see if that there can be additional resources aimed at things. That has happened in the past.
Okay.
Actually, I like the idea, Tara, and I think, you know, Jericho, we can discuss this offline and get back to the entire group, but I believe that if it's advertised and we get together under the guise of a retreat, and the idea is to take apart, you know, who we are and what we are, and then we report back to the public the findings. I think that under open public meeting that is allowed. And I think that's what you were sort of getting at, Tara?
Yeah.
And then we can definitely do so. At the very least, anything sub 2 people is kosher regardless. Even if you're talking about business, if you're talking about agenda related business. And then there definitely is, much like for CRC, we had the meeting that we did at the Athenaeum, and that was technically posted as being a meeting, but it was not recorded. We did not keep any rules. I just want to get the exact specifics of how we would do that in this context from compliance, but yeah, absolutely.
Would people be interested in attending something like that?
Yeah, it's a brainstorming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We will get some information from Jericho and get back to the entire group, and potentially maybe that will be our October, in lieu of our October meeting, whatever. The other issue that is not on the agenda, Athelin and I had this discussion earlier today, is now that we have new members, and I know we just have Kelly today, but picking a day and a time that, you know, is good for the meeting, because we really do want to have as much participation as possible. Does the second Thursday of the month and at 4 o'clock work for everyone that's here? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Alright.
as long as we
When,
have a
when I
schedule,
don't have
can
car
put it-
issues, sorry.
You don't have
Okay.
what?
Sorry I was late today. I had a car issue.
Oh,
But
okay.
4 o'clock Thursday, second Thursday works.
Okay, because I find that if, you know, consistency is what's most important, you know, if we know that's when it is, if it's on people's calendars, things come up. The wonderful thing is until at least 2025, I believe, we can do things hybrid or remotely, and you know, it really works for this group. So we'll continue to do that. So thank you. Any other old business or new business? Okay. So can I, with none, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call, Amanda? Suzanne?
Yes.
Sue?
yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, so in closing, thank you everyone for joining us today. Be safe, and hopefully Hurricane Lee just brushes by, and Sunday the sun is out and we have power and no flooding.
Just actually, if you guys want to listen for 30 seconds, a update from public safety just
Oh, yeah.
came through. It looks like it'll be a Cat 1 at worst when it hits us, and it doesn't look to be hitting us straight on. So significant rainfall, storm surge, but it's not going to be like a Gloria or a no name.
Okay,
Stay and of course jinx us.
I know.
okay. Well, be safe, everyone, and thank you.
Yep. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Very good.